Is Larry Baker. He is a retired University of Iowa professor. Is that what you were, a professor or something else?
No, I was a Kirkwood Community College history teacher.
Oh, excellent.
You can't get anything by me, Michael. I know all that stuff.
You're just sharp, man. Larry, we have talked to him in the past, and if you're on YouTube, or if you're not on YouTube, go to it, but not if you're driving, for God's sake. I'm holding up a book. It's called A Good Man by Larry Baker, and that's who we're talking to today. And unbeknownst to me, this is a picture of Larry on the book, obviously, 31 years ago, you said?
Yeah, Younger and Tanner, right?
Younger and Tanner, yeah. This is Larry Baker. And, it's he's obviously a Flannery O'Connor fan, as I am. And so if you have a chance, take a look at that book. Right. Anyway, just before the break, I asked Larry Baker this question. Why did the Democratic Party nominate Hillary Clinton as their candidate in 2016? Bernie Sanders was there. The people seemed to be clamoring for Sanders. Right. But no, we had to have somebody that we're somewhat familiar with, Hillary.
Okay, so I'm obviously not an objective source here since I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. But let me tell you what I think part of the problem was. First of all, Bernie was not a Democrat.
No, he's a socialist.
Right, and he sort of comes in to registers as a Democrat when it's convenient for him. And, party professionals don't like that. They don't like that. So the Clintons had cultivated their position through 20 years of smoozing and boozing and whatever. And they had cleared the way for Hillary. So when Bernie comes in, and I don't think Bernie expected to win, but Bernie exposed the base of the Democratic Party that was always there, that the Democratic Leadership Conference had ignored, the party that was closer to Franklin Roosevelt than to Bill Clinton. And then, so when she gets competition, the party apparatus kicks in. First of all, take the Iowa caucus, for example. Nobody believes that Hillary won the Iowa caucus.
Nobody. Certainly not me.
I was there. I saw the voting. I had reports all over the place. The super delegates were stacked. And let me ask you this. When they did the California primary, they had results like 15 minutes after the polls closed. And yet, in the election, it took them a week to get results from California. So, sure, it helps to be part of the party. The party wanted the continuation of the Clinton era. And good or bad, the Clintons would have been better than the Bushes. The Clintons are better than, McCain or all these other people they were running against. Who was it, Bob Dole? The Republican Party has devolved instead of evolved. So, I take the Clintons over their two opponents anytime. But when Hillary gets handed a Senate seat in New York, and then they clear the way for her in the primary season, setting up this sense of entitlement, and she runs a lazy campaign. And I don't want to pick on her, but, if they blame Bernie for her losing, I blame her for losing.
Oh, for God's sake. She blamed the Russians. She blamed white.
Well, they didn't help.
she blamed white women. She blamed everyone but herself. And racism, misogyny, on and on and on. She has been the biggest baby I've ever heard.
Okay, but those were factors. Absolutely.
Well, there's another factor. She's obnoxious.
She should have won.
Yes, she should have. Yes, there was one factor that no one could overcome. Her. Nobody liked her.
Well, it's I think the problem that Biden has, and I hate to keep coming back to him, is that he splits the Democratic Party like Hillary did in 2016. He's not really going to appeal to independent voters. He's not going to really appeal to young voters. He is the most beatable Democrat, in my view, in 2020. Let me ask you a question. You don't think that voter suppression had any role in some of those close races in 2016?
Let's not talk voter depression or voter oppression or anything else you want to say. The Democratic Party has a long history voter suppression. I mean, they
Well, but
do.
we did it the old-fashioned way.
Yes, you did. You were back in the Richard Daley, Lyndon Johnson days. Those were the
Stole
good old
elections. We didn't just
Yeah,
change
we-
the rules and make it where people couldn't vote. We invented votes.
And there were plenty of what did Donna Brazil do right around the was it in 2016 or was that when Barack Obama was running for president? By the way, Hillary lost to Obama too. But Donna Brazil, I think, sued to keep a polling or what am I trying to say? A voting place open in the St. Louis area much later than anticipated. And that was an area of town where the Democrats were expected to do quite well.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. When the Republicans look at those same areas and remove voting machines, change the hours, change the rules and regulations, wipe out the voting list, I think the Democrats have become amateurs in this.
Well, amateurs or not, they're willing to learn. This is just, there is no morality here, Larry. There's, I may not be the person to talk about morality, but there is zero morality in the Democratic or Republican Party. This is just a naked, brutal struggle for power and money, and that's it. That's what I want to hear that address tonight in the Democratic Party debate.
Okay, but here's the thing. You want brutal, power-grabbing, the election of 1800, the election of 1824, election of 1828. It's been it's one of the things that the founding fathers were very clear about. Once you have what they call factions, you know all this history. Once people get involved in factions, they look out after self-interest of their own people, and not the common good. That was a great fear they had, and it's come to fruition. You were talking about the Democratic Party being so down on working class people, forgetting those people. What has the Republican Party done for them?
None. Nothing. That's
okay, as long as we agree on that.
No, listen to me, Larry. Listen to me. Say, I hear this a lot.
I'm going to change ears. Hold on.
All right. Okay. Change ears. Right. Okay. Now tune in here. We didn't want different policies in 2016, and we don't want different policies or different faces in 2019. We want substantive change to our economy and to our government. We want change. We don't want incrementalism. We will not tolerate it from Hillary Clinton or anyone else. Say what you will about Donald Trump. He's been a change agent. Wow.
No, he hasn't been a change agent.
Oh, yes, he has.
Demolition agent.
Yeah, he's changed the Democratic Party. Donald Trump has.
Hopefully, he's woken them up.
Well, yeah. Well, but we are seeing the face of a Democratic Party that maybe some Democrats didn't know was there. And maybe they're not too thrilled by that. Some of the Democrats' behavior, I don't mean the major political candidates, but some who identify as Democrats have been very unpleasant and belligerent and frankly hysterical.
You're coming from Western Iowa?
Oh, yeah. Where
there's a certain Republican who might be the poster child of that.
Oh, Steve King, we love King. By the way, I talked with Congressman King just last week, and
did he ask about me?
No, he did not.
Oh.
He said he'd never heard of you. But he did pay Bernie Sanders an odd kind of left-handed compliment. He
left-handed would be appropriate.
Well, he said that he didn't believe that Bernie Sanders was a socialist, or he didn't really believe he was a socialist through and through. And that he just said he was a socialist to get attention, or I can't exactly remember what Steve King's doubts were. But he said he spotted Senator Sanders sitting in the Senate chamber and went over to talk with him, sat next to him, and asked Senator Sanders if he was really a socialist. And Bernie Sanders turned, looked him directly in the eye and said, "Yes, I'm a socialist." And I thought that was great. That made me that caused me to admire Bernie Sanders even more. He didn't back down from anybody. Yes, this is what I believe.
Steve King in the Senate? Astonishing thing.
Well, he wasn't. He was there as a guest, I assume.
Just visiting. Okay.
Just visiting.
No, Bernie is not a classic socialist. He doesn't want the government to own stuff. He wants the government to subsidize stuff. Sure. So what's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid? These are the things that that the public wants, and they work. If you don't let Republicans get in there and monkey with them, but he's not taking over the airplane industry. Like we're going to build airplanes. Everybody's going to work for the government instead of Boeing.
Are you sure?
That's a bad example right there, isn't it?
That is kind of a bad one, yeah. Are you sure that's not what Bernie wants? I mean, if he's really a socialist, he believes the government should control all the major industries and forms of production.
Yeah, I've never heard him ever say that. He can call himself a socialist all he wants to. But socialists believe in a lot more government than democratic socialists do. And, Warren, going back to her, she always is asked that question, are you a socialist because of all of these regulations and what you want to tax the rich and all this other stuff? And she's got the classic response that FDR's had, which is like, hell, I'm trying to save capitalism here.
I believe that. I absolutely believe that. I was a Franklin Roosevelt fan. I remain a Franklin Roosevelt fan. Not entirely a Franklin Roosevelt fan, but I'm somebody who doesn't believe in judging historical figures by contemporary standards. I think that's a load, frankly. Andrew Jackson was a racist. Oh, really? Not by the standards of his time, he wasn't.
He's pretty extreme.
Yeah, he was. He was very, shall we say, no nonsense. He was the Trail of Tears guys and a lot of other things. But
and I'd love to see somebody like Abe Lincoln or Teddy Roosevelt try to run today. It would be impossible.
Well, Abe Lincoln would be lousy on television. I'll tell you that.
Oh, sure. His accent, his folksiness, they'd crucify him.
Yeah.
He was the right guy for his time, the right moment. And the Teddy Roosevelts of the world who really wanted to use, there's a socialist for you. The guy that wanted to make the government control all incorporation, that you had to a government corporation to operate in business.
Certainly.
Yeah, he was advocating that instead of letting, like, what was it, New Jersey or whatever, that's Delaware, Biden, that state that gives out corporation papers like toilet paper. It's like, yeah, we'll actually help finance you. We'll help create businesses, but we're going to own it. We're going to be part owners of this. He was also a guy that wanted to throw out the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I remember. That would be great.
Lord.
That would be great.
We're stuck with who we got, and we got a few good ones and a lot of mediocre ones.
All right. Larry Baker's our guest today on 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, an admitted liberal. And we are talking
out
about
out of the closet
and into the streets. And we're talking about what we expect to see at the Democratic Party debate this evening. So you were in love with Pete Buttigieg there for a while. I was beginning to question who you were. You heaped so much praise on him. I thought, Larry,
he's a great guy.
You're too old to be making a switch at this age in life. So
never too old to be dumb. All
right. So Pete Buttigieg, are you still in his camp, so to speak?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to work on his campaign. He's catching all sorts of hell about this shooting in South Bend. And I've watched all the press conferences. I've listened to him and studied the background. Sort of like, you talk about a no-win situation for a guy in that position right now. He is responsible. There should be more black cops on that force by now. But they're not. And he ought to be held accountable for that. But you look at him compared to the others. I mean, after Elizabeth Warren, the only person that's as smart as Elizabeth Warren in that race is Pete Buttigieg. And he's very young, maybe a perfect vice presidential candidate. So who knows?
Who knows?
But he is obviously somebody that the Democratic Party ought to be cultivating and planning for the future.
I have to tell you, frankly, that the Democrats look weak to me a lot of the time. If you get a group of minority people together, African Americans in this case, who are mad at Pete Buttigieg, they practically tremble. they don't have the guts to stand up and say every now and then, law enforcement was right to do what they did in this particular situation. And if you start rioting in the streets, I'm going to send riot police into the street after you.
Michael?
Yes?
I have no response to that. I'm just going to let you have that one all by yourself.
I got it, buddy. Larry Baker's been our guest. Larry, it's been a great pleasure. I hope we can talk again. We're going to have to go this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dutch.
Michael Devine, the doctor of truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
It's 357.
Blizzard Creek Blues Society presents Blues Under the Trees, Saturday, July 27th, featuring Hamilton Loomis. The full blues lineup includes Joe and Vicky Price, the Heather Newman Band, and Malcolm Wells and the Two Timers. Gates open at 1. They lay down the blues at 2. Advanced tickets are $25. Get them now at Access Audio, Avila Bank, Ivy in Fort Dodge and Humboldt, and Remy Music. Or get your tickets for $30 at the gate. Bring your lawn chairs and an appetite for great food and world-class blues. Blues Under the Trees, Saturday, July 27th. Sports Park Raceway, Fort Dodge.
Yeah, it's Mike.
Yeah, I was wondering why you didn't ask that guy why Elizabeth Warren wasn't smart enough to stop saying she was Native American.
I probably should have, shouldn't I?
I guess she doesn't own a mirror because it was obvious to everybody else.
Well, I'll ask him the next time he's on. That's for sure.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Bye.
More focused and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about. And notice these results in 30 minutes. Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes, teachers, and students are calling Limitless a secret weapon for the brain. You have nothing to lose, so call now and find out how to get a free bottle today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-681-9041, 800-681-9041.
Never let it be said that I do not allow liberals a forum on this program. I certainly do. Larry Baker's a good guy, and I look forward to having him and even another liberal or two on the air. They're fun. So is Big Ed from Georgia. 4 o'clock, KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Hi, this is Gary Rima, the voice of the University of Northern Iowa Panthers, and this is the home for Panther Sports, the voice of Fort Dodge, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Action in Congress for the southern border. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. But there's still no done deal just ahead of the 4th of July recess. Fox's Jared Halpern, live on Capitol Hill.
Less than 24 hours after the House approved $4.5 billion for humanitarian relief at the southern border, the Senate has passed a $4.6 billion measure on a wide bipartisan 84-8 vote. Now, Republican and Democratic leaders in the House and Senate must negotiate a compromise. The House plan that passed nearly solely on votes from Democrats includes strict provisions on detention facilities for migrants. The Senate measure includes funding for the Pentagon and immigration and customs enforcement. Neither bill would allow money to be shifted for a border wall or additional detention beds. Lisa.
Well, Jared, the president says lives would be saved if immigration laws were changed, tweeting a short time ago on his way to Japan for the G20 summit before he left, saying he hates the photo of a migrant father and his young daughter dead along the Rio Grande River.
If we had the right laws that the Democrats are not letting us have, those people, they wouldn't be coming up. They wouldn't be trying.
Democrats accuse the president of inhumane policies. Immigration a likely topic as the 2020 debates begin tonight in Miami. Fox's Evan Brown is there live.
And Lisa, the first debate among Democrats running for president will have just 10 of the 20-plus candidates running. The presumed headliner may be Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, but first to declare was former Congressman John Delaney of Maryland.
I thought it would be big. I didn't think it would be this big. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff in advance of this. Obviously, I've done a lot of stuff to make sure I'm here on this debate stage. But in many ways, for most Americans who who aren't on Twitter all the time or aren't activists, they haven't dialed into this thing yet.
Now, Delaney will be on stage with Warren, as well as former Congressman Beto O'Rourke and New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, among others, Lisa.
Thanks, Evan. This is Fox News.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. I've got great news. Mortgage interest rates have dropped. So if you're thinking about buying a home, right now is the time to lock that low rate, even before you find the home of your dreams. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Humanitarian concerns along the southern border prompting a walkout by workers at the Boston headquarters of online furniture giant Wayfair.
This is what
They're protesting the company's decision to sell furniture to a government contractor that runs a detention center for migrant children in Texas. Some customers now calling for a boycott. A nonprofit group with federal contracts to manage some of the camps, though, says they believe children should sleep in beds with mattresses. 9 days into the search for a missing University of Utah student, police are also still looking for the car that a Lyft driver says met Mackenzie Lueck in a park.
Police say video surveillance cameras around that park were not operating. And now the question is whether the person who met Mackenzie there knew those cameras were not working. If so, that could explain why this person didn't just pick up Mackenzie at the airport. They didn't want to get caught on camera.
Fox's Claudia Cowan in Salt Lake City. An American soccer star becomes a presidential target.
Megan Rapinoe has referred to herself as a walking protest of the Trump administration and doubled down when asked about saying she would not visit the White House if the U.S. won the World Cup.
I'm not going to the White House. No, I'm not going to the White House. We're not going to be invited.
You're not going to be invited?
I doubt it.
Rapinoe there with 8x8 magazine. President Donald Trump weighing in on Twitter Wednesday saying, I'm a big fan of the American team and women's soccer, but Megan should win first before she talks. Finish the job. We haven't yet invited Megan or the team, but I am now inviting the team, win or lose. President Trump also lashed out at Rapinoe's protesting during the national anthem prior to matches. Matt Napolitano, Fox News.
The U.S. women's team faces France in the quarterfinals of the World Cup Friday. She hiked a stairway to heaven. That's part of a tweet from Dog the Bounty Hunter star Dwayne Chapman after the death of his wife Beth earlier today in Hawaii. Beth Chapman was 51 and had lung cancer. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news this hour. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. The Fort Dodge and Des Moines Metro branches of First American Bank are going to be purchased by the credit union formerly known as the University of Iowa Community Credit Union. Green State Credit Union announced on Tuesday that the deal will close in the fourth quarter of this year, pending regulatory approval. In a written statement, First American Bank CEO and President John Fisher says that they're confident that Green State's consumer and mortgage business will blend in well with their commercial banking and trust service. He says the combination of the two financial institutions will be of great benefit to consumers, small businesses, and the respective communities. The transaction will include 7 First American branches, including those at 114 North 27th Street and 1207 Central Avenue in Fort Dodge. First American Bank was established in 1934 and was headquartered in Fort Dodge. A retired Iowa farmer who applied to Governor Kim Reynolds to have his gun rights restored has instead been charged with illegally possessing firearms. Alan Phillips of West Branch had been out of trouble for 40 years when he sent in his application seeking restoration. He wrote that it was time to clear his name on a 1978 misdemeanor conviction for having a loaded hunting gun in his car. The 76-year-old Phillips received a surprise visit in February from agents who were conducting a background check as part of the process. They found that he had firearms in violation of the gun ban, and his 41-year-old conviction triggered. They charged Phillips with being a felon in possession of a firearm. He has pleaded not guilty and is awaiting trial. The case illustrates how hard it can be for ex-offenders to get their gun rights back once they're lost. A recent report shows Reynolds did not restore anyone's gun rights during her first 19 months in office. 3 workers say an Iowa pork processor fired them in retaliation for filing complaints about working conditions. The Sioux City Journal reports that Luis Aceves, Jose Moreno, and Jose Magana filed 3 separate lawsuits last week against Northwest Iowa Pork in Sioux City. They seek back pay and future wages, lost and future benefits, compensatory damages, and punitive damages. A company representative has not returned a call seeking comment by the Associated Press. The 3 say they were not provided with protective eyewear and had other workplace complaints. State health workers visited the plant and found no violations. The 3 were subsequently fired on September 13th. They say a manager told them they were fired for violating policy and damaging company property. Well, one of the Democrats who did not qualify to be among the 20 presidential candidates in nationally televised debates tonight and tomorrow night is in Iowa campaigning today. OK Henderson with more.
Who am I? I'm the governor of Montana.
His name is Steve Bullock. He's the only Democratic presidential candidate to have won a statewide race in a state President Trump won in 2016.
He won Montana by 20. I won by 4. 25 to 30% of my voters voted for Donald Trump. We have to win back some of these places we lost in 2016 if we're going to win again.
That's Bullock's primary pitch. He also stresses a campaign finance reform law he signed, as well as an executive order that requires corporations to disclose their political donations. Unlike most of the other candidates, Bullock opposes Medicare for all, and while he signed a tuition freeze for Montana's public colleges, Bullock does not favor having the government pay off student loan debt. Iowa Attorney General Tom Miller has known Bullock for a dozen years since Bullock was Montana's Attorney General. Miller announced he'd be endorsing Bullock a couple of weeks before Bullock even got in the race.
He's got enormous personal qualities of integrity and doing the right thing. He's sort of where I'm at ideologically, which is sort of center left.
Bullock will be quizzed for about an hour on a Des Moines television station this afternoon. This evening, 10 other candidates who got donations from at least 65,000 people and scored high enough in public opinion polls will take the stage in Miami. It'll be the first debate organized and sanctioned by the Democratic National Committee. Radio Iowa, I'm OK Henderson.
And the Iowa Farm Bureau is hosting an economic summit on Friday in Des Moines under the heading Managing Through Challenging Times. Iowa Farm Bureau President Craig Hill says it's been a tough couple of years for farmers and ranchers, and this event will offer them help on several fronts.
We'll bring in some experts and folks that have knowledge and wisdom about forecasting and what's going to be happening in the future. And we'll deal with macroeconomic issues as well as farm lending, what farmers' balance sheets and current positions look like, as well as going forward with trade.
Hill says some of the attendees are able to learn more about how the Farm Bill is being implemented.
The Farm Service Agency Director from Washington, D.C. will be joining us to give us some insight there. Just a whole host of people that have knowledge and beyond, talking about technology too and how we manage in a changing world and a challenged world with technology.
Registrations for the summit are still being accepted. Head to the website iowafarmbureau.com for more information. That's a look at local news from the newsroom. I'm Bob Fisher.
Here's the
reporting.
AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Daytime highs approaching 84 this afternoon under mainly clear skies, southeasterly winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Chance for scattered thunderstorms. Tonight, lows around 69, overcast skies. More clouds than sun. Tomorrow, chance for scattered storms. High temperatures reach up to 86. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 81.
Nobody beats our prices at Menards, so you can save big money on everything for your home's exterior. When it comes to outdoor wood projects, Cabot has a stain for every style. Save $15 a gallon after rebate on all Cabot premium exterior wood stains and finishes. Prices good through July 6th. Save on Cabot premium exterior wood stains and more. Now during Menards 4th of July sale.
Save big money at Menards.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Oh, why not just cremate me when I'm gone?
Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, there are many options to consider when cremation is chosen. From simple to detailed, we at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services can help you create a unique commemoration.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
It's Michael Devine at AM 1400
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
with 60 rounds of freedom.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. It's 12 minutes after 4 o'clock.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, our guest is Dr. Dean Stanzel. He is an economist with Southern Methodist University and the O'Neill Center. Hi, Dean. Explain the O'Neill Center, please.
Hi, Michael. The O'Neill Center for Global Markets and Freedom is in the Cox Business School at SMU in Dallas, and it was set up by one of our alums, William O'Neill. And William O'Neill is also the founder of Investors Business Daily newspaper. And we focus on studying the impact of competitive market forces on freedom and prosperity in the global economy. Our website is o'neillcenter.org. That's ONEIL.
Okay, on my Facebook page, you'll find a couple of Bernie Sanders articles regarding Bernie Sanders. And, of course, what's happening, especially on the Democratic Party side, is they're buying votes with other people's money. But I don't think you've heard the latest here. Today, Elizabeth Warren, who I kind of liked as far as a Democratic candidate, at least she was well thought out, has proposed reparations for gay people. The idea being that gay people who are now married paid taxes as individuals. They were forced by the evil hand of government to pay taxes as individuals. So now that they're married and the state realizes its error in denying them marriage, we should go back to the beginning and give them reparations from the time that they were living together as a committed couple but not married. And we owe them the money that they paid in taxes as single people. So Elizabeth is in the, okay, I want to buy your votes game as well. Senator Sanders, who's an entertaining guy at the very, very least, has, and you've probably heard about this, ladies and gentlemen, he is talking about a plan to cancel student debt. Now, the amount of student debt is staggering, $1.6 trillion. That's with a T, ladies and gentlemen, $1 trillion. So you were a college student once, Dean. You probably had student debt. What's the problem here?
What's the problem? Well, I mean, part of the problem here is that this is money that was loaned out in some cases, of course, by private lenders. And what the Sanders people are saying, and Elizabeth Warren came out with something similar a while back, where she was only canceling debt for people below a certain income level, or at least there was a phase out as you get richer. Sanders is saying for everyone, all debt gone within 6 months of and this is legislation that he's proposing in the Senate with some co-sponsors. So this isn't tied to his presidential campaign per se, in the sense that it doesn't have to wait. Not that it's going to get approved, but yeah. So the issue is that the government would be saying to private companies, you have to accept not getting repaid for these loans you made, and I think that's certainly problematic in terms of the precedent set for future policy.
Well, Senator Sanders is no nonsense. I was talking with our Congressman Steve King, last Thursday, and he was telling me he didn't really believe Senator Sanders was a socialist. So he saw him in a Senate chamber and made a beeline right over for Senator Sanders. And he said, Senator Sanders, you've been saying that you are a socialist, a democratic socialist. You don't mean you're really a socialist, do you? And Senator Sanders, to his considerable credit, I think, looked Congressman King right in the eye and said, yes, I'm a socialist. Yes, I am one. You know, he didn't dance around it. He didn't apologize. He didn't try to say anything about democratic socialist. He said, I'm a socialist, period, end of story. I appreciate a man who will look you in the eye and tell you the truth. You know? Yes,
I mean, his honesty is refreshing, no doubt. And by the way, you talked a little bit about the expense of this plan. The last thing I saw said something about, what did you say, 1.6 trillion?
Trillion, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's about half of current federal revenues. So we're not talking about a little bit of money. Now, this is spread over 10 years, but still it's a lot of money, and it's got to come from somewhere. And so, as I said, Elizabeth Warren had a plan a couple months back where it was only for targeted at lower income people, but she was going to put in place a wealth tax, right, on people with wealth, and Sanders has a specific plan as well to pay for his, and his is centered on taxing Wall Street. He says that he could, and he says it's going to take $2.2 trillion to pay for the program and some of the other college funding expansions. He wants to triple the work study program and expand Pell Grants. And because he also, by the way, as part of this, wants to make public colleges, universities, and historically black colleges and universities tuition free. So that's why it's the 2.2 instead of the 1.6. He wants a 0.5% tax on stock trades, so it's basically 50 cents for every $100 worth of stock anytime you buy stock, 0.1% on bonds, and 0.005 on derivatives. And he's saying this could raise $2.4 trillion over the next 10 years, so that would pay for this plan. It would also make a huge dent into people's wallets in terms of taking money away from people who are investing financially.
Well, you're talking about the investor class, and they're probably not going to get a lot of sympathy from Sanders supporters. Should they get should they get some sympathy, or maybe you can refine a little bit what you're trying to tell us?
Absolutely, because it's not just Richie Rich who has money in the stock market, right? A lot of people, a lot of solid middle-class people have 401ks or some sort of investment fund, retirement fund, then this would affect them as well. It's not his isn't targeted just at the rich, it's targeted at Wall Street. And we all, most people, I would say, own stocks. I don't have numbers in front of me, but certainly it's expanded greatly over the last couple decades, and more and more people are invested in the stock market for their retirement.
All right, Dr. Dean Stanzel is our guest. Yeah, I know this whole thing freaks you out pretty seriously, and we talked about it last week and probably the week before that. That younger people are big fans of Senator Sanders, and they're big fans of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's an unapologetic socialist, by the way, and perhaps is more radical than Bernie Sanders ever thought of being. I was watching 60 Minutes last night, and they replayed an episode that featured Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. Yeah, very much a socialist. And again, maybe just a short time ago that wasn't acceptable, but it seems to be gaining steam among younger people. I don't suppose your economic students down in Texas are playing that game, though.
Well, certainly some of them are, but I would note before I go further that the Representative Ocasio-Cortez was right there by Sanders' side when he announced this new legislation that she's going to co-sponsor bills in the House that are essentially companions to it. So she's all in with him on this idea. No, I think that in general there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what socialism really means, and I think even some of Bernie Sanders' public comments serve to muddy the waters on all that. He's spoken very favorably of places like Sweden and Denmark, which I want to put this into some context. So the very first time I was on your show, I believe we were talking about the Economic Freedom of the World report that ranks countries. The Fraser Institute up in Canada has been doing this for 20 years or so. Milton Friedman was there at the beginning, helping to develop the index. So it looks back at the latest rankings. So there's 5 areas within the economic freedom total, and in 2 of those 5 areas, Sweden and Denmark rank higher than the U.S. And those are legal system and property rights and freedom to trade internationally. So they're doing better than the U.S. on those 2 things, but they're also very close on regulation and on the soundness of the money system. The only real difference on this in the 5 areas is the size of government, and there's a substantial difference there. They have very high taxes and spending, but when it comes to things like their regulation on business and that sort of thing, they're a lot less radical than a lot of people think, and in fact, in some ways, they're better than us. In fact, there was a quote in this George Will's latest column in the Washington Post about Sweden in particular, and he said they have more billionaires per capita than the U.S., and also none of their manufacturing or extractive industries has ever been socialized. So when Saab, the automaker, went into bankruptcy, the government just let it go. Unlike in the U.S., where we bailed out GM and Chrysler twice now. And get this, 80% of all new schools in Sweden are privately run, as are the railroads and the subway system. So it's a very different place than I think most people fully understand. And I'm not saying I want to move, but
well, in our country, another difference is that business would fight the idea of all the things you just described, tooth and nail. They would try to unwind the idea of socialism at all in Sweden. I wonder how that works in their. Of course, we're talking a completely different culture. They may look like us, but this is a different country with a different history, and the people are much different than we are. I wonder how that works out in the culture, that these apparent contradictions exist in their society. But I want to move forward because I don't know why we haven't talked a lot about the Great Depression, Franklin Roosevelt, and all these things before. You and I haven't, and I regret that. But also on my Facebook page, you will see a Washington Post article that Dr. Stanzel sent me that Bernie Sanders is in an FD and is a weak. How is this described? He's in the FDR echo chamber, only it's a very weak echo. Here it is. Bernie Sanders is FDR's unimaginative echo. Now, Franklin Roosevelt did change the country. And it has been often said that he reverted our economy to a socialist economy to save capitalism. Did he do that, in your opinion?
More or less, yeah. I mean, because if you think about before the New Deal, government had a very limited role, almost at least very similar to what Adam Smith laid out, 250 years ago in The Wealth of Nations, that we need government to, in his words, to protect us from foreign invasion, to protect us from, violations of our rights from people within the borders, and then maybe some infrastructure here and there. And that's about all that we were doing. And there wasn't an income tax. Well, I guess by then there was, but it was very small. Much of the budget came from tariffs, which now tariffs are bad, but they're better than income taxes in my view. So yeah, it was a radical change, and it was accomplished in part by threatening to pack the Supreme Court when the Social Security Act was first ruled unconstitutional. And so those guys, his legal advisors, found a loophole in the Constitution and said, well, we can just add 9 more justices. And then, of course, the ones we appoint will be in agreement with us. And
certainly.
Well, everything will work out fine. That the sitting justices didn't really want any part of that, so they flipped.
Yeah.
It didn't end up happening. But that's an important part of the story that I think a lot of people, especially a lot of these big, millennial fans of socialism, don't really understand that we got here not very long ago, really, in the big picture, and we've really gone pretty far down the road to serfdom, as Friedrich Hayek's book was titled back in the 40s.
Yeah, I can't believe that was back in the 40s. I thought it was in the 70s or something. President Trump, we rarely talk about President Trump, and that's, well, I guess that's good and bad. But he's unloading on the Federal Reserve now, and this article is also on my Facebook page.
Hey, one quick thing on Sweden before Trump. So there was a link in that George Will column about a National Review article, and one of the things in that article was about that Sweden is capitalist. Sweden, from the National Review article, Sweden with other Protestant countries led the world in compulsory sterilization and persecution of gays into the 1970s. You were talking about their culture being different than ours, and maybe in that sense it's one example of that. But also there's this interesting story about, I think this is fairly contemporary, an old Swedish woman left her worn-out frying pan in a trash container for metal packages. She was arrested for committing a crime against the environment, freed only after trial, and fined.
Crime against the environment. I'm loving it.
Yeah. So things are a little different over there, no doubt.
Well, they definitely are, and I guess Sweden owns gay people reparations. I mean, maybe Elizabeth Warren should run for, premier or president or whatever of that country.
You know what we could do to fix that is just get rid of the income tax, because then you don't have the whole marriage penalty issue.
Yeah, there we go. Yes.
We wouldn't be able to afford all this other stuff. But
yeah. Well, anyway, President Trump is objecting to the Federal Reserve not lowering interest rates. Apparently, I know the Federal Reserve raised interest rates just a little bit and then backed off. Well, of course, low interest rates for quite some time has been fueling, a lot of debt, but a lot of progress, and the economy has been humming. So, yeah, Trump is rightly concerned. Do you believe that the Federal Reserve should raise interest rates or not?
Yeah, I think they probably should. I mean, listen, for a good almost 10 years, or maybe more like about 7 years or so after the bottom of the recession, back in 2009 when they started what they call quantitative easing, where they basically bought up $4.5 trillion worth of mortgage debt. They had held the interest rate essentially to zero.
Yeah.
And one of the problems with that, and this ties into a discussion of what caused the lingering of the Great Depression, not just the Great Recession, is that it leads to bad investments. Right? If you know that the interest rate you have to pay is it's not zero, let's say it's 1%. Right, that makes a lot of projects seem profitable that wouldn't be if it were at 3%.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you get a lot of people investing in projects that really maybe are marginal in terms of their actual productivity and wiseness as investment decisions. And then at some point, those have to get kind of washed out of the system. And so we're delaying the inevitable by holding the interest rate down too low. And one of the things that was Trump tweeted about, I guess it was said that the stock market would be 10,000 points higher if the Fed hadn't hiked up interest rates. So I went back and looked at the Dow Jones since quantitative easing started in 2009. Now, granted, they ended that, but the Dow Jones is already nearly 4 times higher than it was in 2009. So if you look at that on an annual kind of as an inflation rate, because that's the price of a stock, it's a 14% annual rate of inflation. And that's without his extra 10,000 points. If you put the bump it up another 10,000 points, you're talking about 5.2 times higher and a 17.4% inflation rate. The stock market is already, in some ways, perhaps overinflated and set for a correction. But anyhow, that's his rationale doesn't make sense to me, in the sense that the notion that it should be 10,000 points higher. Sure, that's good for him and for his friends on Wall Street, but for people trying to buy into the stock market and invest for their retirement, it just makes it more costly. The stock prices are, after all, a price.
President, and our guest is Dr. Dean Stansel, an economist with Southern Methodist University and a longtime contributor to the program. We're going to talk about President Trump and an executive order. And President Trump has, he's made no bones about his problem with red tape and other such nonsense. And we all cheered him every time he says that. But in an article that's also on my Facebook page from the Washington Examiner, Dr. Stansel wants to point out that President Trump has guaranteed that we will have more red tape in our health care in the future. Now, this is mainly around the idea that we have, or that the healthcare providers have to give the cost of the prescriptions and justify it in some way. I haven't had a time really to sit down with the article and really get through it, but this is probably in response to those who are pushing back on the cost of pharmaceuticals. This is obviously a political move.
Right.
The big drug companies are the enemy, and that has been the mantra for some time now.
Right, and it's not just the drugs; it's also the hospital prices and the doctor fees. One last quick thing on the stock market. So one of the things Trump said, and then we'll go to the medical stuff, is that he tweeted what he's done. This is talking about Fed Chairman Powell. What he's done is $50 billion a month in quantitative tightening. And so if you look at the $50 billion a month, considering the $4.5 trillion in quantitative easing, it would take 90 months to offset all that quantitative easing. It would take about 7.5 years. Anyhow, so there's been a lot that was already done, and some of these interest rate increases are just offsetting and getting us back to where we would have been otherwise, most likely. So on the healthcare stuff, one of the things that I think leads to inflation in the price of healthcare, including pharmaceuticals, is what's often called the third-party payer problem, and the idea being that the consumer of the product, whether it's healthcare services or pharmaceuticals, they're not really the payer, right? I mean, there's maybe a copay or something of that nature, but you don't bear the full cost of the services that you're deciding to purchase. And part of the rationale behind this notion of
Hi, it's Mike. Hi, this is Mike.
Forcing them to put out these prices is to increase transparency and to give consumers more information so they can make better choices.
Yeah, it's Mike.
That part to me makes a lot of sense.
James Mike.
I'm kind of with
Mike
you
Patrick, I should
on
say.
this.
Yeah, you're a little early, Mike.
You're
a little early. You're
a little
about 3
longer,
minutes early, but
and I didn't
if
get
you want
through
to
it
hang on,
fully.
call
But
back to
one of the
that.
things that they're pointing out is it's not quite that simple. Essentially, that this
Yeah.
To go in and say, all right, each and every one of you doctors and hospitals and medical care providers, you're going to have to now jump through some more hoops to post your prices. And I think some of them are already moving in that direction anyway. And I don't know what the answer is on this one, frankly. I do think that the overall notion of transparency is helpful, and we need to get there somehow. I'm not sure this is the best way to do it.
Well, what little time I had to study the article, I really thought to myself, I think we're always going to have red tape of some kind. If we're going to have a capitalist society with billing and these sorts of things, we're gonna have this sort of nonsense. It's frustrating, but that's the way it is. Dr. Dean Stanzel has been our guest. Of course, he is with the O'Neill Center at Southern Methodist University, and he's an economist and a regular contributor to the program, and has been for years. Thank you so much, Dean.
All right, thanks for having me on, Michael.
All right, this is AM 14. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge 432. An old friend of ours is coming up.
Biggest sale of the season is going on now at Jim's Carpet One's Red Tag Flooring Sale. Hi, this is Dean Sternberg. The Red Tags are your tickets to savings up to 50% off the best brands of flooring, featuring Relaxis Lee's carpets. The only carpets with a 25-year no exclusions warranty against spills and stains, even pet accidents. Save now on waterproof luxury vinyl, plastic tile, natural hardwoods, cabinets, window coverings, and more. The Red Tag Flooring Sale, only at Jim's Carpet One, Floor and Home, across from Decker Truck Line, Fort Dodge.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for the station so we can go wherever you want us to.
In today's economy, it just makes sense to plan ahead. At Historic Bruce Funeral Home, pre-planning your funeral arrangements can save you money. By planning ahead, you can secure your arrangements at today's prices, no matter when our services are needed. Pre-planning your funeral is one of the most thoughtful things you can do for your family. Call us for details. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
Here's Michael Devine at AM 1400
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
with 60 rounds of freedom.
That's right. We have 60 rounds of freedom here at all times. We're making radio great again. And to do that, we must go to the past. We're going to do a little Motown. And now we're going to go to Motown Mike Libby. Yes, Mike Libby, ladies and gentlemen, who was in Fort Dodge for many, many years on the air, of course, as J. Michael Libby. Libby, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, my friend. What's going on with you?
Well, we're rounding up the liberals today and taking them to concentration camps. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, well, you got to be kind of careful with those.
Those analogies, those they're kind of dark thing. I don't really think there's concentration camps in Clive. I could be wrong, but I know you're down there in the Clive area, probably in West Des Moines, Iowa City. It's kind of the People's Republic as far as.
Actually, I live in a place called Windsor Heights.
Even more exclusive. Windsor Heights.
Yeah, Windsor Heights, yeah. And what's really cool about this, there are only 3 precincts in Windsor Heights.
Really?
Yeah, 3. That's it. I mean, it's a small community, less than 5,000 people.
Oh.
And but I will tell you that they all 3 precincts solidly vote Democratic all the time. So.
Well, you should be the mayor of Windsor Heights then, if that's the case. No, it's great to have Mike Libby on the air. I hope Mike can join us every now and then. I always wanted to have a show with Mike, even back when we worked together briefly at KKZ Radio way back when. It would be a point-counterpoint type of thing. Saturday Night Live was still pretty popular then. And I always wanted to do a Dan Aykroyd, Jane Curtin thing and have Mike give his position, which would seem liberal and reasonable. And I'd come back with, Mike, you ignorant slut. But we were never able to do it. So this is as close as we're going to come. But I'm glad you consented to come on and talk just a little bit about politics and culture in our country today. One of the Democratic debates is starting tonight.
Right.
And I want you to tell me what you think about the debate and the candidates, but I will use this as a starting point. If all of these candidates come out with that terrible picture of a young father drowned in the river with his dead daughter's arm around his neck, and then say, "This is why you should elect me," I'm turning off the TV. Or if they come out and say, "Elect me because I'm not Donald Trump," I'm also turning off the TV. We know about Donald Trump. We know what the Democratic Party thinks about Donald Trump, and they're not always wrong. Are we attacking Venezuela or Iran this week? Or was it North Korea? I can never keep it straight. Maybe we're going to attack France. I don't know. But what do you think, Mike? Is for the Democrats to come on tonight and say I'm not Trump or vote for me because Trump is evil? Is that a winner or a loser in your mind?
I don't know whether or not that's going to happen. I've had the opportunity now. We now have 24 candidates in this race, which is my bride the other day said, I'm thinking about running for office. I said, why not? You may as well. But I tell you what, I have met now and sat down with maybe 13 or 14 of the candidates and had interview time with them. And I don't think, I may be wrong, but everybody knows what we have with the current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Right.
I think they're going to try to compare and contrast that, but I think and I hope that you're going to hear a lot more kitchen table talk. I think you're going to hear things about wage stagnation. I think you're going to hear things about health care issues in our nation. I think you're going to hear about voter rights issues. Yes, you're going to hear about the southern border of the United States. But I'm hopeful, at any rate, that this will be an informative discussion. The downside is of course, just like we did in 2016, we have so many candidates, and so it's going to be short answers, I think, and we'll see how it rolls. I don't have a horse in this race for a number of reasons.
Don't you really?
No, nope. So although I got to tell you, last night I was at a meeting, and this will just blow you away. Last night I was at a meeting, and I heard and spoke with the 24th candidate. His name is Joe Sustek.
Okay.
And he's a former congressman out of Western Pennsylvania.
Right.
And in the room, now get this, in the room, there were representatives for Beto O'Rourke, Amy Klobuchar, and Julian Castro. And this guy got up and started to talk, and he had everybody in that room in the palm of his hand. I have never seen a more dramatic speaker on the stump than this Joe Sustek. He was really, really good.
Wow. Never heard of the guy.
Believe me. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I ain't going to hear anything really too sharp about this. I mean, I was expecting, nothing. And I got a full cup. It was really, really well done.
Well, is he in the debate tonight, or is he in the second half? He
just announced Sunday. So
he announced Sunday.
He just announced. And the reason he announced Sunday, which is an incredible story, his daughter is recovering from the same disease that fell Senator John McCain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she beat it once, and it looks as though, according to Joe, that she's beaten it again, and so he decided to get into the race on Sunday of this past week. But look, here's a retired admiral for the Navy. He won his congressional seat not once but twice in a district that was 2-1 Republican.
Wow!
Yeah. So the guys, it was just a surprising opportunity, and I think what we're seeing, I know a lot of people don't like politics, and there was a poll out just not too very long ago that suggested that a majority of Americans don't even know who's running, perhaps much less care.
Oh no, that's terrible. That's terrible.
But anyway, it was so I think there's when you live in Iowa, and that's the cool thing about KVFD and 1400 KVFD. You're in Fort Dodge, Iowa. We have the opportunity to get really up close with so many of these candidates and actually listen to them, ask them thoughtful questions. And again, I've been to numerous events, and the questions that are asked aren't about the Mueller report. They're not about stuff that the Beltway media wants us talk about. They're really substantive things, kitchen table things. People are hurting desperately out here, and I think that that's what you're going to hear today.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. Remember, I don't know if we ever talked about this when you and I worked together, but I know through my radio career, I was told repeatedly that the station everybody wants to listen to is WIIFM. And when you listen to WIIFM, that's an acronym for What's in It for Me. And I hope that all of those candidates tonight understand that we're listening to WIIFM.
There are some. I'm reading two books right now, as a matter of fact. One is by Andrew Yang, who has a futuristic look at the economy and jobs and where this country is going in a technological way that will just blow your mind. And I've had the opportunity to sit down with Mr. Yang now 3 or 4 times. And I'm also reading Senator Amy Klobuchar's book right now, which is also kind of an interesting read. All of these candidates, John Delaney, it goes on and on and on. They all have books out. And it's really an interesting thing to delve into some of their stories. The one that I've really enjoyed, though, has been this book by Andrew Yang. I think this guy is a sleeper candidate. You wait until you listen to it. Yeah, he's got some good stuff.
I will. In modern times, it seems to be that presidential candidate wannabes do write a book. Going back to John Kennedy, he wrote Profiles in Courage, by the way, which is still a terrific book. He wrote that in the late 1950s as he prepared to run for the presidency. That's still a great book. Rick Perry even wrote a book.
I think the former governor of Louisiana even wrote a book. So
Bobby
Jindal.
Thank you very much. By the way, I have a note here from our old friend Jane Morgan.
Hey, Janie.
Janie, she's not in the studio. Hopefully she's listening. Janie gave me this. Just if this makes you feel at all nostalgic or remembers the good old days of Fort Dodge, here it is. We have a runaway horse, ladies and gentlemen. It's the horse answers to Maverick. It is a chestnut brown horse with a white star on his forehead that was lost on Tuesday by the dam at Brushy Creek. He's fully tacked. In other words, he's wearing a saddle and bridle. If you see him, call 515-570-5970.
Oh my!
We have a lost horse.
That's one of the things that I miss about Fort Dodge. You never know when there was going to be some bulls that got out from the fairgrounds or lost horses, or but we did have a bobcat or something down here, which was kind of fun. So.
Yeah, I did see that. Years and years ago, just as a reminder of the power of radio at the time, and perhaps still, I was on the air on KKZ. I don't remember which shift, but a lady had lost her baby blanket out by High V. It was actually the old High V store. And I got on the air and said, well, we have a lost baby blanket. It means something to the lady. And here's the number to call. This was before cell phones, of course. She called me back 10 minutes later and somebody found her baby blanket, and she was so grateful. And I thought, gosh, maybe we really are doing something good here at this radio.
That's a great story, Mike.
Yeah.
The power of local radio back in the day, and I don't want to wax nostalgic on this, but the power of local radio back in the day is particularly that signal that blew into like 40 counties, a 600, 700-foot stick at 100,000 watts.
Yeah.
That was all local. I mean, the news was local. The personalities were local. It really cut a large swath, and it was important to people. Even the school lunch menus, for crying out loud, right?
Oh, God, Orville Rubwacker doing the school lunch menus. God. Cows up, pigs up, and the cattle or the chickens left a wake-up call for 8:30. That was always great. You got in a little trouble once where you read the St. Ed's menu and then you finished with, you can sure tell who's got the money in this town.
If I remember correctly, yes, I was from time to time castigated for some of those things, but it was always in semi good fun.
Oh yeah.
And,
It's all good.
What was the anyway? We're here waxing nostalgically. I do remember the one time that I did get in trouble with the Fort Dodge school system was when we had a skit. They had failed to call school off because of a blizzard.
Oh.
And yeah, we had a skit we put together very quickly about helicopters dropping hot lunches into the high school because nobody could get anywhere because we had 5 foot of snow on the ground or something like that. And I believe the superintendent's name was Jane, and I can't remember her last name. Yeah, they didn't much like that.
Jane, gosh, what was her name? Yeah, she was mad at me for something.
Oh yeah, well,
as well. That Gabler.
Gabler. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Yep.
Was that it?
Gabler.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, Mike Libby is our guest, old Fort Dodge radio guy, now living down in Windsor Heights.
There you go.
In one of the centers of liberal democratic politics in the state of Iowa. I'm a little worried about Cory Booker tonight. I'm afraid his head will explode, and I'm wondering if that's a bad thing. Cory kind of bothers me. You know, just yesterday at a nice restaurant in Chicago, Eric Trump was trying to have lunch, and the waitress spit in his face. And Steve King, when he was here in Fort Dodge, now I know you're not a Steve King fan unless you've really changed. Steve King was trying to have lunch, and a young man threw, it was rather violent from what I understand, threw a large glass of ice water right in his face. He's been arrested, and he'll go to trial. Eric Trump, by the way, refused to press charges on the young woman. But all that aside, the loss of civility is shocking. Now, the Democrats say they're going to return us to civility. However, Cory Booker and others have urged just the opposite. Get in their faces, according to Cory Booker, especially around the Kavanaugh hearings. Do you find favor with those tactics? Are they effective?
Well, I don't think they're not necessarily effective, but you know, everybody has their base. And I'm really surprised a bit about that comment relative to Senator Booker. I know Senator Booker. I've had the opportunity to visit with him at length. I find him to be a very peace-loving, warm, fuzzy kind of guy. You know, he's into big old bear hugs and deep laughter and you know, and making a real emotional plea that I think actually comes from his heart. So I got to kind of be careful when I hear stuff like that. I'm going, okay, well, maybe I don't know. But everybody's got their base, and of course, the president consistently, you know, panders to his base, and you'll see Democrats do the same thing.
Well, again, we know who Donald Trump is. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, one thing about Donald Trump, you know what's on his mind all the time.
Well, yeah, I just pick up the Twitter feed
and there he is, all Twitter all day, sometimes in the middle of the night. He says he doesn't drink, but you know, okay. But he's up at 2:30 in the morning, sometimes tweeting. You know, so I don't. Again, if I start hearing too much about what a dirtbag Trump is. I know what the Democrats think about Donald Trump. I don't need to be told again.
Well, you know, I don't think it's just the Democrats. I mean, you know, when your approval rating's sitting at 36 to 38%, you know, there's a lot of Republicans that are out there that would be perhaps called Bob Ray Republicans that are just sitting back going, "Oh my God, make this end." So I just think it's the personality of the current occupant of the White House is so caustic that I think it just brings out some bad stuff on all sides. And
it just occurred to me, Mike, you can't say his name. It's Donald Trump, Mike. You can do it.
You
can do it. Come on, man.
Man's name for several years now, and if I do wish to really call him out, I just say 45.
Okay, all right, okay, I'll go with that. Michael Libby is our guest at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Our congressman, 4th District Congressman Steve King, also not real popular in Democratic Party circles. He has a strong challenge.
Yes.
Randy Feenstra is a formidable candidate. I don't know if you know Randy or
I
not,
do, yeah.
but he is a conservative through and through. He's a good-natured, high-energy guy, and he might very well be the nominee. I frankly, Mike, J.D. Scholten or whatever Democrat wants to run, I don't think they have a chance in the 4th District. This is a very conservative district.
Yeah, and the reason that is because you just recently got National Public Radio in Sioux City.
Don't get me started with National Public Radio. It's a waste of money. It served a purpose at one time, but the guy we used to work for, Jim Maurer, hated National Public Radio. He thought it was.
Well, he hated a lot of things. At one time, he disliked and hated cable before he invested in it.
Right.
And then he loved it, of course, and
Right.
sold it and made all kinds of money. But what strikes me about our conversation, Mike, is that you baited me into this conversation.
Of course.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
And said I need a Jew to be on the radio.
Right.
And you haven't even asked me a Jewish question yet.
And I don't. Let's see. What was some kind of Jewish
Right.
question?
We got to talk politics and religion.
We got to
because that'll
talk politics. Well,
tick
there,
everybody off.
well, there was something, there was some anti-Semitic remark by a Democrat, I think. I thought it was questionable. I didn't really think it was like an anti-Semitic. What am I thinking of? Help me out here.
Well, it could have been a number of things. We have a young congresswoman from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Who has been a little off the beam from time to time. I don't know.
I see. I do. I think I remember I was talking about guns or something, or it was in my head, or you brought it up that we have these mass shootings have got to stop. I'm an NRA member. I own plenty of guns, and I don't plan on giving them up. But here's in the gun debate is an example of how screwed up the country is right now. We're so polarized. We can't even get together and say, hey, do you think it'd be a good idea if we did something about school shootings other than scream at each other? I mean, our fathers, Mike, would sit down and say, this is the problem, and we're going to fix it right by God now. And they would.
Yeah, and some of us are old.
Yes.
And I'm in that category of
Yeah.
course. And I remember my family has always been very political.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather, may he rest in peace, was an organizer for the Union. As a matter of fact, he organized. This is a great story. He organized in the Fort Dodge. They were out of Milwaukee and Racine, Wisconsin, and he was in Fort Dodge organizing. And I don't know what plant it was, but that was in the 1930s. So anyway, he organized over the John Deere Works and Massey Ferguson and all kinds of places. Anyhow, the point being is that in our family we talk politics a lot. But I remember when Ronald Reagan was president of the United States, Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House, and their politics couldn't be any more divergent.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we got stuff done for the country. And I think that's, I got a feeling, at least in my conversation with these Democratic candidates, I think that's where they're going to go. I would certainly hope so.
I would as well. I again, what I wanted to talk to you, and we're running out of time already, and I'm just getting in. Really feel like we're getting into it here, but there was a mass shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh, which is terrible. It was a nice neighborhood.
It was a shooting. It was near San Diego.
Yeah, it was just lunacy, and I thought we were by that. But and Mike, my friend, I hope you can come on with me again next week sometime, and we will focus on the whole Jewish thing. But we're gonna have to go now.
That Jewish thing.
Jewish thing. You see, I never got it from you. You look and sound like a by God Methodist minister, and you're giving me this Jew stuff all the time. I don't get
that. That was probably a little bit of that must have worn off on me when I was at Friendship Davis. Hanging out with those Methodists.
All right, Mike. Thanks a lot.
All All right, brother.
Mike Libby's been our guest.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes, teachers, and students are calling Limitless a secret weapon for the brain. You have nothing to lose, so call now and find out how to get a free bottle today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-681-9041, 800-681-9041.
From the Fox Business Network, on Wall Street, stocks closing mixed as investors wait for a possible trade deal with China. Among the gainers today, tech and energy companies, while real estate and utilities were among the laggards. The Dow falling 11 points, the Nasdaq up 25, S&P 500 down 4. And as the summer begins, who's thinking about going back to school? Apparently Target is, and already getting in gear for the season and expanding its uniform selection with the Cat and Jack Kids line and launching a new tween girl brand with clothes, school supplies, and more. Target will also be having new back-to-college sections in more than 700 stores near college campuses. And although the economy appears to be robust, many Americans are feeling skittish as they look to the future, with 40% of people polled by Bankrate.com saying that they feel that the next recession has already begun or will begin within the next 12 months. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Hillary Barsky.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 4.125%. APR 4.22%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. 8.88% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Frontier Days 2019 was a huge success, and the Fort Museum and Frontier Village would like to thank the following sponsors: Pepsi, Shimcat Motors, The Messenger, White Transfer and Storage, Troy Waller Auto Body, Dr. Richard and Susan Vada, Dr. Daniel J. Cole, the Fort Dodge Community Foundation, Danielson's Parking Lot Services, Quickstar, Fort Dodge Oral Surgery, Murphy Equipment, Doug and Susan Witt, Remax, Fort Dodge, Mike's Pest Control, and Dr. James and Ann Meyer. Thanks again to the sponsors of Frontier Days 2019 from the Fort Museum at Frontier Village.
The bakers of Village Hearth are proud to introduce their latest additions to their family of fine bread products: Pennsylvania Dutch potato rolls. Baked the old-fashioned way using quality ingredients like real potatoes and honey. Their unique recipe makes these the most moist and flavorful buns around, just like homemade. So once you've grilled your hot dogs, burgers, or brats to perfection, no ordinary roll will do. Finish them off with a Village Hearth Pennsylvania Dutch potato roll. Village Hearth, baked fresh locally.
You are listening to AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 5 o'clock. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to all my guests today: Mike Libby, Larry Baker, Jerry Menke, the whole bunch. Yeah, talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.
If you're into cars or just want to learn a thing or two, tune in every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 for the Under the Hood Car Show on AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Clearing another hurdle. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The Senate approves a measure that funds care for migrants. Fox's Jared Halpern live on Capitol Hill. The Senators signed off on a $4.6 billion emergency spending plan for humanitarian needs at the southern border. The lion's share, Appropriations Committee Chairman Richard Shelby says, would go to the Department of Health and Human Services.
Provide safe and appropriate shelter
and care for children in his custody.
The 84-8 vote in the Senate came a day after a House bill won mostly Democratic support. The two versions are different. The House measure includes stricter provisions on facilities detaining migrants. President Trump has issued a veto threat. Congressional leaders say they'll work on a compromise in hopes of passing it by the end of the week. Lisa.
Jared, President Trump blaming Democrats after seeing a shocking picture of a father and his toddler daughter drowned in the Rio Grande.
If they fixed the laws, you wouldn't have that. People are coming up. They're running through the Rio Grande. It can be a very rough river of sorts.
The president with the comments before boarding Air Force One. He's on his way to the G20 summit in Tokyo. The first round of Democrat debates underway in about 3 hours. Fox's Evan Brown live in Miami.
Yeah, Lisa, here at the Adrian Arsh Center along Biscayne Bay, where the first 10 of the Democratic presidential hopefuls will take a stage and answer questions, probably in rapid-fire segments. Elizabeth Warren will be on stage, but so will others less known, like businessman Andrew Yang.
Most Americans are still getting to know me and my campaign, so this could not have gone any better for us in our campaign. This is all about introducing our vision for the country.
Not on stage tonight, Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden. They debate tomorrow, Lisa.
Thanks, Evan. On Wall Street, the Dow lost 11 points. The Nasdaq gained 25. The S&P slid 3 points. This is Fox News.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Let's talk credit card debt for a minute. If you feel you're carrying too much of it, you're not alone. The average household in the U.S. carries over $8,000 in credit card debt. Ready for some good news? With a cash-out refinance from Quicken Loans, you can quickly and easily put some of the equity in your home to good use by paying off a lot of that high-interest credit card debt. A great way to take cash out is with our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 4.125%, APR 4.22%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN to learn how taking cash out with a 30-year fixed mortgage might be the right solution for you. And for a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rates subject to change. Pay 0.88% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news this hour. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. The Fort Dodge and Des Moines Metro branches of First American Bank are going to be purchased by the credit union formerly known as the University of Iowa Community Credit Union. Green State Credit Union announced on Tuesday that the deal will close in the fourth quarter of this year, pending regulatory approval. In a written statement, First American Bank CEO and President John Fisher says that they're confident that Green State's consumer and mortgage business will blend in well with their commercial banking and trust service. He says the combination of the two financial institutions will be of great benefit to consumers, small businesses, and the respective communities. The transaction will include 7 First American branches, including those at 114 North 27th Street and 1207 Central Avenue in Fort Dodge. First American Bank was established in 1934 and was headquartered in Fort Dodge. A retired Iowa farmer who applied to Governor Kim Reynolds to have his gun rights restored has instead been charged with illegally possessing firearms. Alan Phillips of West Branch had been out of trouble for 40 years when he sent in his application seeking restoration. He wrote that it was time to clear his name on a 1978 misdemeanor conviction for having a loaded hunting gun in his car. The 76-year-old Phillips received a surprise visit in February from agents who were conducting a background check as part of the process. They found that he had firearms in violation of the gun ban that his 41-year-old conviction triggered. They charged Phillips with being a felon in possession of a firearm. He has pleaded not guilty and is awaiting trial. The case illustrates how hard it can be for ex-offenders to get their gun rights back once they're lost. A recent report shows Reynolds did not restore anyone's gun rights during her first 19 months in office. 3 workers say an Iowa pork processor fired them in retaliation for filing complaints about working conditions. The Sioux City Journal reports that Luis Aceves, Jose Moreno, and Jose Magana filed 3 separate lawsuits last week against Northwest Iowa Pork in Sioux City. They seek back pay and future wages, lost and future benefits, compensatory damages, and punitive damages. A company representative has not returned a call seeking comment by the Associated Press. The 3 say they were not provided with protective eyewear and had other workplace complaints. State health workers visited the plant and found no violations. The 3 were subsequently fired on September 13th. They say a manager told them they were fired for violating policy and damaging company property. Well, one of the Democrats who did not qualify to be among the 20 presidential candidates in nationally televised debates tonight and tomorrow night is in Iowa campaigning today. OK Henderson with more.
Who am I? I'm the governor of Montana.
His name is Steve Bullock. He's the only Democratic presidential candidate to have won a statewide race in a state President Trump won in 2016.
He won Montana by 20. I won by 4. 25 to 30% of my voters voted for Donald Trump. We have to win back some of these places we lost in 2016 if we're going to win again.
That's Bullock's primary pitch. He also stresses a campaign
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studio, this is the Dave Ramsey Show, where America hangs out to have a conversation about your life and your money. Sitting in for Dave, I'm Chris Hogan, and I'm excited to be here with you this hour to be able to take your questions, take your issues, whatever it is you want to talk about that deals with your life and your money. We are here for you. But I need you to call us. That number to call is 888-825-5225. Again, that's 888-825-5225. Or feel free to look us up on social media at Ramsey Show. So I'm excited to have you, America. I'm excited to dig into the things that are on your mind, where I'm going to give you some straight answers on your questions. And so I'm going to jump to the phone lines. I've got Stuart on the line in Kansas City, Missouri. Stuart, how are you?
Doing wonderful. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm focused and not finished, my friend. How can I help you today?
Well, Chris, I tell you, what I got going on here is I currently have a job, but it is a union job that where work comes solely based off of seniority and not work performance.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I can work, it does pay quite well. But the problem is I'm so low in seniority that with business coming and going, I might be working 2 days a week, cut back to 2 days a week, which isn't making a whole lot of money.
Oh, wow.
And I recently got a job offer from a company that I did work for about 4.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the downside to that is it is going to be like an $18,000 pay cut from whenever I am working full time at the job I'm at now. But it does come with the peace of mind of having it's a Monday through Friday, regular hours, where the job I'm at now does not.
Well, Stuart, but here's the thing. You're not full time on the job now.
Right. Yeah. And actually, I just got called yesterday. I got called back full time. It was kind of whenever the good news comes, it comes, because I got that job offer at the other company. And then a couple hours later got called back telling me I was going to full time again.
Okay. So with this, though, but again, you say it's based on seniority. So you may get work a couple days a week.
Well, right now I'll be working full time, but depending on how business goes, it could be for a week, it could be for a month.
I gotcha.
It could be for a year and a half.
Okay. What line of work are you in?
I'm actually in the railroad. I work for the railroad.
Okay. And so looking at this, how long have you been doing this job where it's hit or miss like this?
Well, actually, I finished training last November, and I've been back and forth like this since then. So
okay. And so what are you doing? You just got a good savings account?
Well, thankfully, my wife has got us following Dave's plan pretty well. So we are debt free except for the house.
Okay.
We've got a $24,000 emergency fund, and with what I have been making working at the railroad, we've been able to get by. We haven't been able to really beef up the emergency fund or outside of what they automatically take out of my check. Haven't been able to put away for retirement either.
I gotcha. How old are you all?
I am 33 and my wife is 32.
Okay. Do you all have kids?
We have one child.
Okay. All right. And so looking at this, you're looking for something that's going to have a little bit more stability, right?
Right.
Okay. And so now it's the juxtaposition of the two things. What you're doing right now isn't real steady for you, but it pays better than what you could have that's a little bit more steady. I think based on kind of where you are, I'm going to look at this and sit down with my wife and really start to talk this through. If how long will you have to be on this job before you move up the seniority ladder to be able to have a little bit more stability with the work?
Well, from what I've been told, most people say 5 years, but with some of the guys I've been talking with here recently with what's going on currently with the company, they're talking maybe closer to 10.
Okay. And so with this other job, you're saying there's an $18,000 pay differential?
That's correct.
Okay. Listen to me, Stuart. I'm looking at this and I'm going to either A, look for another opportunity that's in there with other companies out there, but I don't think it's fair for you to be in limbo for 5 years waiting for the seniority side to be able to kick in. The bottom line is time is money, and you guys are looking to kind of grow forward and build forward on the baby steps. So I'm going to go with something a little bit more stable and that I can rely on. But then at the same time, you start to look at your skill set to figure out, is there an opportunity for you to do something else on the side? Now, all of that means I'm not stopping my look or my drive or my climb, but stability is going to be important. And I think, you and your wife walking through and looking at the pros and cons of this, I think the stability side is going to allow you all to make more progress, knowing what it is. Because, if you're getting work a couple days a week and then you might not have anything for 7 to 10 days, that's sporadic. And I don't think that's anything you can count on. So again, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to walk through it. I can either stay where I am and then take on a part-time job that's going to give me some flexibility in the evenings or times that I'm not working, or I'm going to take this job that's going to be steady and consistent, and then I can work on the side as well. That's going to allow you to push through and make progress on these baby steps. So thank you for your call, my friend. That's the direction I'm going to go, because I like dealing with knowns. Unknowns make me nervous. I want to know what I'm dealing with and what my target is. All right, back on the phone, I've got Stephanie in Kansas City. Stephanie, how are you?
Hi, Chris. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm focused and not finished, but I'm ready to help you. What's on your mind?
Well, so my husband and I are in baby step 2. We have about $68,000 in debt still. We have an annual take-home pay. Well, not take-home pay, but our salaries are $134,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
We're struggling. We're cash flowing 2 kiddos in daycare right now, so sure you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a vehicle. It's kind of the vehicle that we use to ship our 3 children around. And then it's a mommy mobile, but it's got about a $12,600 note on it. And we are just really not able to we're struggling with trying to really get our debt snowball going and trying to pay off as much as we can. But what we were thinking about doing was possibly refinancing this auto note to a lower interest rate. Right now it's at 5.99%, and interest rates we might be able to get it a little bit lower, or even decrease the payment, so that way we could take the difference and put it towards our smaller debt to kind of get that going more. But wanted some input on this because, thinking of the fact that most millionaires stopped taking out loans, that's in the back of my mind. So just wanting some help with that.
Okay. All right. So again, the $68,000 in debt, break that down for me. What do you all owe on?
Sure. So we have no credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
I have about a little more than $20,000 of small, broken up into, $1,000, $2,000, and then it's like $5,000 and $9,000 student loans.
Okay.
After that, it's the $12,000. It's the car note of $12,600.
Mm-hmm.
And then, unfortunately, we did take out a home equity loan. That's about $34,000.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you guys have an array of debt. I want you to hold on the line. We're going to go to break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to dig into this situation, because she wants to know, do they refinance a car loan to try to drop down a few percentages to try to fix this? Or do I have a better solution? I got something else they need to do and consider. We'll talk about it when we come back. This is the Dave Ramsey Show.
Business leaders, let's talk about my friends at ZipRecruiter and how you need them to help you hire your rock star team. Hey, I get it. Hiring can be challenging, but there's one place you can go where hiring is simple, fast, and smart. A place where a growing business like yours can connect to qualified candidates. That place is ZipRecruiter.com/Dave. ZipRecruiter does the hard work for you. They send your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards, and then their powerful matching technology scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invites them to apply to your job, so you get a qualified candidate fast. In fact, ZipRecruiter is so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. And right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Dave.
Christians have an affordable and credible way to meet their overwhelming healthcare costs. It's Christian Healthcare Ministries, the original health cost sharing ministry. A Better Business Bureau accredited organization, CHM members share to pay each other's medical bills. It's not insurance. It's Christians financially and spiritually supporting each other. It's what CHM has done for over 35 years. Learn more at chministries.org. That's chministries.org. Christian Healthcare Ministries is a proud sponsor of Dave Ramsey live events.
Technology should make your life easier, and it shouldn't break the bank. That's why I'm excited to tell you about SimpliSafe's incredible new security camera. It automatically records evidence if there's a break-in, and you can live stream footage to your phone anytime you want. Around-the-clock professional monitoring with no long-term contract. Get a free HD security camera when you order at SimpliSafeDirect.com. That's SimpliSafeDirect.com.
Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson. Governor Kim Reynolds today announced the appointment of the first woman director of the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. Kayla Lyon is a Decorah native who now lives in Ames. She'll be the 8th director overall when she begins the job July 8th. She's been serving as an advisor to the governor. Iowa Congresswoman Cindy Axne was among supporters of a bill providing humanitarian aid to migrants illegally crossing the U.S. southern border. The West Des Moines Democrat says the bill included provisions for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to boost border security measures.
We don't want to ever see children who are supervising other young children who don't get an opportunity for a change of diapers, children that are denied basic things like being able to brush their teeth, and certainly these things need to be addressed.
Iowa Democrats Abby Finkenauer, Dave Losack voted for the bill, while Republican Congressman Steve King voted against the bill. And Rescue League of Iowa removed 13 dogs from a property in Zyra in western Iowa's Audubon County Tuesday. CEO Tom Colvin says the dogs were neglected. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
OAT-LY! That's how you spell Oatly on the side of our oat milk packages. But if you sing it, it sounds like this.
OAT-LY! Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hello, America. You are listening to The Dave Ramsey Show. I'm Chris Hogan, filling in for Dave. And before we went to break, I was talking to Stephanie in Kansas City, and she was walking through a scenario. They're wondering, do they refinance a car loan? Is this something that is necessary, or do they just begin to kind of dig in and get serious? So, Stephanie, tell me this. You've got 2 kids, you told me, right?
We've got 3 total, but 2 that are in daycare.
Okay, gotcha. And what are their ages?
So 2 and 4, and then 12, almost 13.
Okay, all right. So not very big. And this vehicle that you owe $12,600 on, I'm going to go out here on a limb and guess it's a minivan.
It's a Suburban.
Oh, okay. You went tougher. All right, you got a Suburban.
Yeah.
All right. And
Yep.
so owe $12,000 on it. And the interest rate you have on that Suburban is how much right now?
5.99%.
Okay. All right. So let's pause there for a second. And you told me your household income is 134?
Yes.
Okay. And you're looking at this and you said you've got 2 kids in daycare. How much is that per month?
It's $14.40 a month.
Okay. And you both are working outside of the home?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So looking at this with the debt that you have, you've got the vehicle, the home equity loan you told me, you started telling me about. How much did you all borrow against the house?
So we started with $36,000 and paid down to about $34,000.
Okay. You started with 36. What did you take this home equity loan out for?
So we did some home improvements on the house. We paid off some small credit cards, but it was predominantly doing work on the house.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. And so looking back on that, how do you feel about this home equity line?
Actually it improved our overall value of the home. So if we needed to really just absolutely get out of it, we could. So we'll have some extra. We'd go, if we were to sell the house, we'd be able to pay that loan back, plus still have some left over to take and put towards other things.
What did you improve of the home?
We had a lot of siding issues. We had new siding put on. We had some windows placed. We put new flooring in. Some small little, countertop, changing countertops and whatnot. So yeah, surprisingly enough, we made it go a long way.
Okay. And looking at this, looking at it, a home equity line of credit, that's like taking a big credit card against your home. Okay.
Well, so it's a loan. We didn't do the line of credit because we didn't want that. So it's actually more of like a second mortgage then.
Exactly.
We have a fixed rate.
That's exactly. Well, and a home equity line of credit is a mortgage. Most people aren't aware. See, they don't market it that way. So just telling you. So looking at this, I'm going to say this. How serious are you all on a scale of 1 to 10 to getting focused on your money?
So I'm a little bit more focused than I think my husband, and he tries to reel me in. If it were me, I'd be about a 10.
Okay. And where's your husband?
He's more about a 6-7.
Okay. All right.
In the sense that he's not willing to part with his truck.
Does his truck have debt on it?
No. The Suburban. Sorry, the Mobile that we're talking about.
So this is the vehicle that you drive, but he's in love with it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, and that's the thing I'm going to tell you. If not selling it, because I'm always looking at something as an option, because I know stuff is just stuff. But I think you guys getting intentional with the income that you have. I'm not trying to refinance this thing. I'm not going to play the game and pay the fees of the refinance at the bank or the jumping through hoops. What I'm going to pay is pay this loan down and pay it off. Okay. And so again, tightening the budget. Yes, you've got daycare, which is a very real expense, and it allows you guys both to be able to work. I get that. But then walking through this with the student loan, okay, the car is this Suburban is the smallest. Okay. Then you've got the $20,000 in student loan debt.
So we've broken that into smaller. We followed the recommendations by Dave of breaking it down into, so we've got multiple smaller ones.
Okay.
I've already paid off 2.5 loans at this point. So we're doing something, but it's not an entire 20. It's compiled of a couple different ones.
So breaking that out, looking at it as you've been using the debt snowball approach, smallest to biggest, I think you continue on this path that you're doing. I'm not going to waste time trying to refinance this thing. I'm going to pay it off and I'm going to own it. And I want you and your husband to pinky swear that we're not doing car payments anymore. Like I honestly want you to just grab both pinkies and say, we're not doing this anymore. Okay, because Hogan might just show up at your house. I'm not going to show up, but you get my point. It's that kind of stance that you have to take to be able to say, I'm not doing this anymore. We got 3 kids. We got a 12-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. We got kids we want to do stuff for. And I'm not getting caught up in stuffitis anymore. I'm going to take a stand. And when you do that, you guys can make progress. You've got a good income. You've got some focus. Now what you need is intensity. You see, focus is where you look at something, you're identifying, and you see it for what it is. Intensity is where you start to do some stuff about it. And I think you guys working together, and you can, and you have, right? You might be at a 10 intensity level, and your husband's at a 6 or a 7. Hey, you can get some stuff done there. And you know how? You start tapping into your dreams. You start thinking about the things you want to accomplish for yourself and your kids. And I'm going to tell you something, stuff starts to come into focus and you start to realize you can run faster and you can do more. Thank you so much for the call, Stephanie. I have courage that you guys can make this happen. You just need to apply a little bit more pressure and a lot more focus. Thank you. All right, I got Glenn in Iowa on the line. Glenn, how can I help you?
Hey, man, appreciate you taking my phone call.
Yes, sir.
I got kind of an odd situation for my wife and I. We just had our first baby. He's 3 months old.
Congratulations.
We took the financial peace class last year around August, September.
Okay.
And we hit the debt snowball pretty hard for like 6 straight months and got rid of a lot of student loans.
Okay.
We got a lot left is the problem.
How much is left?
Student loan debt, we got about $75,000 left.
Okay. How much did you guys pay off?
Oh, probably $25,000.
Okay. All right.
And we now we're wondering, trying to follow the baby steps, doing the snowball. Given my line of work, I like to have a little bit more of a cushion, if you will, in our emergency fund already. I'm the deputy sheriff up here.
Okay.
So we've got about 4 or 5 months worth of bills saved up in a savings account for our emergency fund. My question is, I've got about 7.5 years in my pension, and cash out right now would be about $42,000. Total debt we got without our mortgage is about $130,000. My question is, should we cash out my $42,000 pension, cut our debt down by almost half or a third, I guess, and really use that for the debt snowball? Then once we're debt free, use that and hit it hard with the Roth IRA? Or what should we do? Or just keep doing what we're doing, I guess.
Okay. Glenn, now you told me, my friend, I hear your question. You told me you've got about $75,000 left in student loan debt. And then you said you got $130,000 in debt outside of the mortgage. Where's the other $60,000 in debt?
Oh, a couple cars, and then some medical bills.
Okay. And the car is debt is about how much?
About 30.
Okay. All right. So looking at this, and you've got the money set aside. How much do you all have set aside for retirement total right now?
With my 42,000, we're sitting about 65,000.
Okay. And what are your ages?
We're both 30.
Okay. All right. So looking at this, you guys have an array of debt. Don't touch that pension, Glenn. Look at my face. Look at me. Okay. Don't. Leave it alone. You're going to have penalties and fees, and you'll have a whole lot of drama. Uncle Sam's going to wake up and go, oh, Glenn decided to tap me on the shoulder. No, that money is there for your future. I want you guys to stay focused, dig in, keep doing what you're doing, take on extra jobs if you have to, but don't touch that money. That money's for the future, my friend. And you've got plans and you've got dreams and you can make it happen. Keep working the baby steps. Stay focused. Let that money grow. This is the Dave Ramsey Show.
What if buying a house was like buying a timeshare? You show up with a herd of other people that also wanted the free gift. Then you're in a pressure cooker sales presentation for 90 minutes. You don't have the opportunity to have your real estate agent professionally negotiate the price. No inspector to uncover hidden problems. No loan officer to explain every detail of the loan terms, interest rate, fees, payment schedule, and total cost. Folks, you would never buy a home this way. But that's exactly how the majority of timeshares are sold. That's just stupid. If you're stuck in a timeshare, call Timeshare Exit Team. They will fight for you. I trust them. You can trust them. Call for a free consultation, 844-999-EXIT or timeshareexitteam.com. Timeshare Exit Team is also growing in an effort to serve you better, and they're hiring nationwide. If you're looking for a career in consumer advocacy, then check out the careers page at timeshareexitteam.com.
From the Fox Business Network, a new survey from Bankrate.com finds a majority of Americans, 59%, feel the economy is either good or excellent right now. However, nearly the same amount believe the U.S. will see a recession sometime in the next 2 years. Investors were feeling so-so about the market on Wednesday, stocks ending mixed ahead of President Trump's meeting with China's president.